If you were lost in a frozen forest, surrounded by endless trees and knee-deep snow, what would you fear more? The cold, or what might be watching you from between the trunks? Legends say that in the far north, hunger itself learned how to walk. And once it did, it never stopped searching for its next meal. Welcome, explorer. Stay close. Today, I'll be your guide as we uncover the truth behind one of the most disturbing legends ever told, the Wendigo. This is not just a monster story. The Wendigo is a warning disguised as a creature, a legend born from long winters, empty stomachs, and impossible choices. Long before horror movies and internet myths, indigenous peoples of North America spoke of something far more terrifying than any animal, a spirit that punished those who abandoned their humanity. As we move deeper into this snowy wilderness, imagine living centuries ago, with no modern tools, no stores, no rescue coming. Winter could last months, food could vanish overnight, and desperation could push even the strongest minds into darkness. According to the legend, when a human resorts to cannibalism to survive, something awakens. Not immediately, slowly, quietly. The body survives, but the soul begins to rot. The Wendigo was said to grow taller the longer it lived, stretching unnaturally, as if never satisfied. Its body became thin and skeletal, skin pulled tight over bone, yet its hunger only increased. No matter how much it consumed, it was never full. That endless hunger became its curse, and once transformed, there was no going back. Some stories describe the Wendigo with glowing eyes piercing through blizzards. Others give it antlers like a deer, blending perfectly into the forest. But all versions agree on one thing. It was once human. That's what made it so terrifying. The Wendigo didn't hunt out of instinct. It hunted out of craving. Now look around this frozen landscape. Hear how quiet it is. Indigenous elders warned that the Wendigo could mimic voices, calling out for help, luring travelers off the path. A familiar sound, a friendly call. And once you followed it into the trees, you were never seen again. What makes this legend so powerful isn't just fear, it's psychology. The Wendigo represented greed, selfishness, and excess. It was the embodiment of what happens when survival becomes more important than morality. In a world where cooperation meant life, the Wendigo was what happened when someone chose themselves over the tribe. And here's where things get even more unsettling. Some accounts claim that Wendigos weren't always invisible spirits. They could be hunted. Feared warriors and shamans were said to track them down, risking their own lives to protect their people. Because once a Wendigo appeared, it meant the balance had already been broken. So as we stand here at the edge of myth and history, ask yourself this: was the Wendigo a literal monster, or a story designed to keep humanity intact during its darkest hours? Because the colder the world became, the more important that lesson was. And we're only just beginning this expedition. As the legend goes on, the transformation into a Wendigo was never instant. It crept in the same way hunger does, slowly, painfully, and quietly. First came the dreams. Endless feasts that never satisfied. Then paranoia, isolation. The person would pull away from the group, becoming colder, more distant, as if something inside them was already freezing. Elders believed this was the moment when the spirit of the Wendigo had taken hold, whispering that survival justified anything. Those on the brink were said to crave human flesh even while still aware of what they were becoming. That inner conflict is what made the legend so disturbing. The Wendigo wasn't just a beast in the forest, it was a mirror held up to human desperation. The more it fed, the less human it became. Bones stretched, limbs elongated. Its heart, according to some stories, turned to ice. Literally, a frozen heart that could never feel warmth again. And once fully transformed, the Wendigo abandoned all remnants of its former life. Villages would report livestock slaughtered, camps destroyed, and strange footprints circling the outskirts of settlements. Tracks too long, too narrow, almost human, but not quite. The forest itself seemed to react to its presence. Winds howled louder, animals fled. Silence followed wherever it passed. Some accounts claim that Wendigos preferred winter, not just because prey was weaker, but because the cold reflected their nature. Snowstorms became their camouflage. A tall, pale figure could stand motionless among frozen trees and become invisible. Travelers might walk past one without realizing it, until it moved. There are stories of survivors who claimed to hear chewing sounds echoing through the woods. Others spoke of shadows pacing them just beyond the tree line, never attacking outright, only waiting. The Wendigo was patient. Hunger gave it time. But not all encounters ended in death. In rare legends, Wendigos were confronted. Fire was said to be their greatest weakness. Shamans believed the ice inside them could be melted, destroying the spirit's hold. Burning the heart was considered the only sure way to end one permanently. Even then, the act was dangerous. Killing a Wendigo meant facing the same hunger and fear that created it. What's fascinating is how widespread and consistent these stories are among different Algonquian-speaking peoples. Variations existed, but the core warning remained the same. Excess destroys. Isolation corrupts. Hunger without restraint creates monsters. And then there's the modern question. As centuries passed and survival became easier, the Wendigo didn't disappear. It changed. Some believe it evolved from a literal cautionary tale into a psychological one, a symbol of greed, of addiction, of unchecked consumption. The monster no longer stalked snowy forests. It lived in behavior. Psychologists have even referenced something called Wendigo psychosis, a controversial term once used to describe individuals who believed they were turning into Wendigos or felt compelled to eat human flesh. Whether real or exaggerated, the idea reinforces how deeply the legend embedded itself into the human mind. So now, as we follow this trail deeper into the story, the question shifts. If the Wendigo was born from hunger and fear, what happens when those same emotions exist in a modern world? Because legends don't survive this long unless they still have something to say. And the Wendigo is far from finished. Today, the Wendigo exists in a strange space between myth, symbolism, and modern horror. Movies, games, and stories often portray it as a towering deer-like monster with antlers and glowing eyes, an image that has become iconic, even though it's a relatively recent interpretation. Traditional legends didn't always describe antlers at all. Instead, the true horror came from recognition. The Wendigo looked wrong but familiar, human, yet broken. This shift says a lot about us. As societies moved away from survival-based fears, the Wendigo transformed into a visual monster, easier to digest than its original message. But underneath the stylized design, the core idea remains unchanged. Endless hunger, endless consumption. A creature that can never be satisfied. In many ways, the Wendigo is one of the most modern ancient legends ever created. It warns against excess in a world that constantly demands more. More food, more power, more control. And just like the Wendigo, that hunger grows the more it's fed. Some indigenous storytellers have spoken out about how the legend has been misunderstood or commercialized, stripped of its cultural roots. For them, the Wendigo was never meant to be entertainment. It was a lesson, a way to keep communities alive during the harshest conditions imaginable. A reminder that survival without humanity isn't survival at all. And that's why this legend endures. Not because it's scary, but because it's true in ways we don't like to admit. So when you picture the Wendigo standing at the edge of a frozen forest, remember this. It isn't hunting because it's evil. It's hunting because it forgot what enough felt like. And maybe that's the most unsettling part. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. New stories, creatures, and mysteries are coming every week. See you in the next one.